All right, looks like we're live. What's going on, everybody? I am joined here with Reclaim Your Throne, and we're gonna debate, discuss Red Pill. I'm sure on a few things we're going to end up agreeing somewhat. To be honest, you're one of the better Red Pill channels on YouTube. I don't think you're completely terrible. I
Okay.
think for the most part, a lot of my disagreements with you on are you just don't seem to completely understand where women are coming from sometimes.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
I also wanted to ask you, do you think women should have a right to vote?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I
cool.
do.
I
I
was a little
think that
worried sometimes.
I I do think that they I think a lot of them need guidance when it comes to voting though, because um specifically like I deal with the black community topics often, and when a lot of these women are left to their own devices, if you will, they tend to make the wrong decision without having any type of background on certain candidates.
Okay, and you don't think that's typical of like just most people in general?
It is in general, not definitely, but at the same time, because there's such a big voting block, specifically within the black community, I'm talking, is it makes it so that they're voting against our own interest, the interest that they say they're interested in, they're voting against. And I think you
Okay.
can see that reflected on all um, schisms of politics.
I would say that's pretty typical of a lot of voters. I think the fact that, well, honestly, between Hillary and Trump, I don't think there was, turd sandwich, giant douche. But yeah, I think in a lot of cases, people end up doing that. I don't think that's really a male female thing. I think actually a better example of that would be the UK choosing to break off from the European Union. I think that's a great example of people voting against their own interests, and that was actually a male-dominated push. It was mostly men, conservative men, who decided to break off from the European Union, and there was literally like practically no benefit to doing that. Boris Johnson was literally making weird meme arguments like we don't have fishing rights because of the European Union, but like that was complete bullshit. UK just chose to sell their fishing locations to like France and shit. Like there were a lot
Mm-hmm.
of like really dumb meme arguments. So I don't know if that's really particularly true of women. I'd say really any demographic you could argue will end up going against their own sort of ideals and voting for the wrong party just because they're fucking dumb and ignorant.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not big on the political parties in general, like choosing a side. Um, so I see where you're coming from. I just have seen a lot of women backing moves from politicians that are counterintuitive, but also that go against my own personal beliefs as to what should be done about certain issues. Like I'm big on, speaking up about the crime in the community. Okay.
Sure.
And when you see what a lot of these chicks are championing it like bail reform or the prison reform, all these
Okay.
different things
Can
negatively
you
affect the community.
maybe we could talk a little bit about that? Bail reform, and prison reform. Like, can you give me an example of something that
So no cash
may?
bail, the no cash bail in New York,
Okay.
the soft on crime prosecutors in Los Angeles, New York. It's not even just these big cities. It's pretty much every major city across the states. They're trying to implement these types of laws or decrees that make it easier for criminals to get out of jail or get out of prison.
Okay. Have you ever been arrested?
I have.
Okay. Like, I don't know if you want to go into detail, but like over what and shit.
So I've been arrested. I won't go into detail as to why, but it was not hard to get out of the situation, which I'm thankful for. Okay.
Sure.
Um, but I think that certain crimes need to be dealt with a different type of veracity. So if
Sure.
it's a violent crime, then it needs to be dealt with based off of I would say obviously a judge is going to end up laying down the full sentence, but I think that they should take it a lot more seriously and not just allow people to bond out on a violent crime. Like there's guys with aggravated assaults with a deadly weapon out on bond. They just released like 60,000 prisoners across the states because of the pandemic. And
Sure.
a lot of them reoffended.
Sure. Okay. So I've been arrested, I think 3 times total. I don't have any criminal record. Those arrests were like, they were bullshit, right? So
Right.
I've been through the whole loop of having to prove I'm innocent and everything a few times. Now I'm actually for getting rid of the sort of cash bail, like having to like bail yourself out or like pay a bond to get out of prison. Now, when you're talking about like really serious violent crimes where it's very clear, based on the evidence that you probably did commit the crime,
Mm-hmm.
then I don't think you should be allowed to go out on bond in a lot of those circumstances. If it's not entirely clear, and you're being accused of a crime, sure, I think you should be allowed to be out on bond.
Yeah. Yeah.
The reason I'm against these cash bond deals, there's a few reasons. One, before it was actually the opposite. So you didn't have to actually pay a bond to stay out of prison. You
Mm-hmm.
were charged a fine if you didn't show up in court.
Right.
So that changed recently, and I think that change was actually deliberate, and it was deliberately made to disproportionately affect poor people, black people, so that they would end up staying in prison. It obviously benefits the prison system, which is private in the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
U.S. Because more people just end up getting into prison because they can't afford to pay the bond to stay out. That massively affects your ability to actually come up with a defense.
Yeah.
So if you can't readily have access to your lawyer, talk to different witnesses, just like the ability to have free time and think without having like weird pressures and stresses in prison,
Right.
massively affects your ability to come up with a adequate defense. So I would say for that reason, mainly the way it disproportionately affects people who are lower income who can't afford to pay these bonds, it's completely unfair. Basically, you're creating a system where the richer you are, the better chance you are of being able to have a defense. And I mean, already, like without that problem, the odds are
Right.
against you if you're poor. Dude,
Right.
the last time I got fucking arrested, it was so fucked. It was over a bullshit charge. They found a knife in my apartment. It was literally in the knife drawer that
Mm-hmm.
supposedly could flip open with centrifugal force. It's like the dumbest law
Hold
imaginable.
on. Where are you?
Canada.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
we
Oh,
we
it's gonna,
have those
boy.
same laws exist in certain states. I think California, they have a similar thing. But
Yeah.
what ended up happening, I went to court over this shit, and guess fucking what? They brought up my income.
Mm,
My lawyer asked me, okay, how much money do you make per year? And I said like over 100,000. And because my income was so high, he was actually able to argue with the prosecutor that, like, look, he makes a lot of money, like, he's an upstanding citizen, like, and they were able to talk down everything and get away without having a criminal charges against me. So I don't have a
right.
record now. Like, that's fucked. Look, what? Because I make more money? Like, I'm able to, like, get away with, shit. So, for that main reason, I'd say it's fucked. there's other more minor issues as well. But yeah, the cash bond system's beyond fucked. I am totally in favor of getting rid of that. Now, as far as being like softer on crime in general, like lower like mandatory minimums and stuff, kind of depends. Like if we're talking about drug related crimes, I don't even think they should be prosecuted to begin with. If it's
Yeah, me
like
neither.
violent
Me neither.
crimes, yeah, if it's violent crimes, then obviously, I think we should certainly take stuff like that seriously. But especially like this is proven too. Black people are more likely to be wrongfully accused of a crime, and they also tend to get harsher sentences, even when other variables are accounted for. So, like, same level of criminal history, same socioeconomic status. Black people are more likely to get harsher sentences and actually get receive higher bonds. There was a great video on YouTube where they were looking at bond price, like the cost of bond to like bail yourself out of jail
Hmm.
for black people versus white people. Some of these black people were like having to pay like $10,000 to get out of jail for like stupid fucking marijuana related crimes, and then you
Right.
have some white people who were accused of like violent assaults and they had to pay a few hundred. Like it was so fucked. So yeah, it's
With the
another
same
reason.
criminal history.
Yeah, yeah, totally insane.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, and I think that is like a lot of times up to the discretion of the judge, because depending on where you are, that it really doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like what I see going on in these big cities, I see dudes doing crazy things. I got homeboys, and I'm not saying I want them in jail if they do something, but I know dudes who caught bodies 5, 10 years.
Sure.
Like, so for me, it's like, okay, if that's what's going on, if that's what I'm seeing on the daily, dudes getting bonded out for this, dudes getting bonded out for that, it makes it feel like there are no real consequences. And what I think about are the victims of a lot of these different crimes. I mean, they're gonna have to be fearing for their lives when a guy who was, arrested on an aggravated assault with a deadly weapon gets back out of prison and is back on the streets, doing whatever he got to do. And he didn't
Sure.
have to
Yeah.
put no money up. He just boom, he's out before the police can even file the paperwork.
Sure. I understand that, and I think on that level we definitely agree. But there's so many like fucked up problems with the whole like bail and bond system. I think getting rid of that and going back to the old way where if you miss a court date, then you get fined, and then you
Yeah.
could like receive jail. Like that makes a lot more sense to me, and I think it's a lot more fair. Um, I think if we're talking about the black community and women in particular, this was definitely a big problem, like in the '90s too, when there was the whole like hard on drug crime movement.
Right,
A lot
right,
of black men were getting sent to prison over fucking bullshit,
right.
and police were definitely targeting black men in particular, like over the whole crack epidemic. I don't think there was a single federal prosecution against a white person over like that period in the like mid '80s to mid '90s against a
Hmm.
white person, but there were like thousands against black people. So
Right.
clearly, like these black communities are being targeted in particular, and I think
What
it's
what I would say,
understandable.
what I would say to that though is, a lot of brothers got to start moving smarter too.
Well,
You
sure,
know what I mean? A lot
sure,
of brothers got to start moving smarter. Like I know, like dudes who move in bricks. I know dudes moving pounds. They're moving it in their hood, and they live in the damn hood, and all the shit is in their fucking apartment.
yeah,
Like if you are living that lifestyle, you need to separate. You need to compartmentalize, and maybe you aren't gonna get banged up like a lot of these other dudes are, because I just see us doing, when we're getting caught, it's in the most, the slowest ways. To me, it's just like, bro, if you doing something like that and eyes is on you, and nowadays we got people snitching on themselves, you know what I mean, online. So
sure.
at this point, it's like, come on, we still have not caught up to what's going on. You see what's going on. Now we need to adapt. Now we need to move forward.
Well, sure, but the point I was making is because, like, we're talking about, like, how this can affect, black women's political leanings, like, since there's this long history of black
Right.
men
Okay.
getting
I see.
targeted, locked up, like, I could understand why a lot of black women would kind of be in favor of some of these reforms that will
Mm-hmm.
keep, their partners out of prison, especially when they are being unfairly targeted. But like, I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of these people who choose this sort of criminal lifestyle, they might not be the smartest individuals, and yeah, they're gonna make dumb decisions, like have fucking, pounds of heroin in their apartment. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Aside from that, yeah, I wanted to talk about a video you made recently, and it pertains to the like statement I made at the beginning of the debate that you don't always seem to understand where women are coming from. You made a video about how you shouldn't take like sexually liberated feminist women
Facts.
seriously.
Facts.
Yeah, and at the beginning of the video, you played a number of clips of like one woman saying that she had to suck dick for money to get by. There
Mm-hmm.
was another clip of a woman saying that she's tired of receiving like posts on Instagram when she just posts a photo of her like doing some sort of fitness thing, and then
Right.
getting tons of dudes saying like fucking hot ass and shit. And then you played other clips of girls who are clearly making money off their sexuality, and making like weird blowjob memes or something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it seems like you put all of these people in the same bubble and acted like they were all the same person. And I think that's what a lot of red pill dudes do, rather than looking at women as individuals. You kind of act as if they're all the same person, and you specifically stated, I remember this, you said women are being hypocrites when they're claiming they're tired of being like objectified, but then they objectify themselves. That's not always true. And I wanted to talk to you a bit about that. So
Okay.
yeah, so
Okay.
I yeah, so like I've had girlfriends, not like actual girlfriends, but just friends that are women.
Mm-hmm.
And I've chatted to them about this, and they showed me like their social media and stuff and how this stuff happens. I knew a girl who was pretty, like good-looking girl. She just posted a photo on Instagram of her like at Starbucks just getting a coffee with friends.
Right.
Tons and tons of dudes ended up seeing this Instagram post saying, "Oh, those lips are so fucking sexy. I'd love to stick my dick in there." Like, just like hundreds of this shit just from posting, her going to Starbucks, and her
And how
Instagram
many
is just
followers did she have?
oh, like not even many. Like it was a few hundred at the time, and a lot of them were just friends from school and shit.
Mm-hmm.
But occasionally, when I don't know, for whatever reason, her posts would get more reach, like probably because it was Starbucks, right? You
Right.
know, so that happens quite a lot, and I think
Yeah. No.
you,
Definitely.
yeah, and I think you don't totally see that a lot, like when women complain about getting objectified, to
No.
like what they're
I see
actually
it.
talking about.
I see it. Basically, their argument is they could post anything and guys are going to go in there and objectify them, whatever. That there's another spectrum too. When you put something online, you are leaving that up to criticism. I'm not going to justify these dudes going in their comments and saying all types of wild shit. I can't justify that. But what I am saying is if you post something, be ready for people to comment. It's people that come on my channel, it's people that come on my Instagram comments saying all types of wild shit. I'm not out here complaining and crying about it. I'm just moving forward. You can't stop those dudes who are gonna hide
Sure.
behind a fake account, hide behind a bot account. If you're allowing that singular, and another thing that I said in that video, because I got it pulled up, is called "Men Don't Objectify Women, Women Objectify Themselves." Another thing that I said in that video is that if you're gonna put yourself out there, you got to be ready for what comes back with it. Okay, if you're going to single out somebody who has a bot account, basically, and it's a burner account for them, I mean, if you're going to single out somebody like that, then that's going to be happening for the rest of your life. Why are you allowing that to affect you? And then you go out in the world and say, oh, men need to stop doing this. Men need to, you don't know if that's a 5-year-old kid who did that.
Well, when this is a more systemic problem that these girls face everywhere, not just online. Like again, if you talk to some of these women who are complaining about these issues, that same friend of mine, I have hung around her and went downtown and shit. She'd get like hooted and hollered at when I wasn't near her. Like if people saw me next to her, people like I'm a like big tall 6'3" dude, and they
Mm-hmm.
probably like assumed I was dating her when I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
People would leave her alone, but if she was just alone and I was like getting something and then it looked like she was alone, like weird creep fucking dudes would be like fucking ass looks hot and or like those are nice lips, like weird creepy comments like about her body that like aren't appropriate. Like, you know, if somebody's going back like past her and like wanting to talk, like, oh hey, you look really nice, you know,
I don't support that
it,
shit though. I don't
yeah,
support that
it's
shit.
totally no, totally. But the point I'm not saying you do, but
Yeah.
when they're getting, you know, these sorts of comments like, oh, fucking hot lips, like from dudes walking by. And then like when they go online, they're getting that same sort of treatment, but it's like maybe a little more extreme because they can hide behind anonymity and shit.
Mm-hmm.
You can understand you can understand why people might complain about that. Like if we were to look at some other form of discrimination, like let's say homophobia, and you have like an openly gay dude who has to deal with the shit in public all the time, like, oh faggot, fucking like creep, you're disgracing God. Like that's the type of shit that they have to deal with all the time. And then when they go online and they have like, you know, a social media account or something, and they're receiving that same sort of hate, like, oh faggot, you fucking homo, and all the shit, like I think it's completely reasonable to complain about when this isn't just online trolls. This is a more like systemic societal problem that they're dealing with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Like,
I
don't you think
mean,
that's reasonable to complain about though? Like, if you're receiving the sort of shit in public and online, I think it's totally reasonable to complain about people behaving like that online.
I definitely understand that, but a lot of these examples I'm coming from where women are actively doing that to themselves, objectifying themselves, putting themselves out there. And those are the ones who are usually the loudest in the room. Those are the ones who are usually complaining. So, like, if a girl posts a picture and say 50 of her pictures, you know, she's getting all support because you know, I follow a plethora of chicks who I know personally on Instagram, and most of the comments are all positive. Most of the comments are showing love, all this type of shit. My thing is pick a struggle because everybody's gonna have a struggle, and that's fine if you want to voice it. I'm just telling people who follow me that hey, you got to understand that for one, a lot of these chicks are getting catcalled and hit on all the time. So they're pressed for options, or they're not pressed for options, and they're going to be able to you know, have opportunities that you may not be able to grant without putting in the work. And a lot of it just goes down to the attention that they're trying to build for their own audience.
Right. Like for me personally, I'm not seeing many women who are like in the sex industry or I don't know. Like it's Instagram kind of blurs the lines too because there are people who obviously use their sexuality to make a living, but it's not necessarily like porn and sex. But you could still kind of
Yeah,
argue
yeah.
it's the sex industry. I'm not seeing too many of those women complain about being objectified. Like I mean, their whole business is essentially around objectification. Like,
I
hey,
don't
look at
know.
my ass, look at my tits, you
I
know,
think
whatever.
when you get them in a conversation, a lot of them are saying, "Oh, you know, it's annoying when dudes say this or dudes say that or dudes are in my DMs." I
Oh,
see that a
okay.
lot. I see that a
Okay.
lot.
Well, me and my wife and I do OnlyFans.
Oh
Right.
shit.
So I've seen this sort of thing personally where this doesn't really happen to me pretty much ever, but it happens to her where, you know, the majority of people you'll come across who sub to your OnlyFans, they'll say things that are either appropriate or appropriate for the platform. Like,
Mm-hmm.
damn, you're sexy, or you have a really pretty pussy, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then you'll get like random dudes who like make these they seem like very like sexually violent, claims like holy fuck you fucking nasty fucking whore. Like I'd like to fucking open that ass up and tear it like to pieces. Like
Yeah.
that like I don't really get any of that. But I see
So,
I see women get that a lot.
okay. So this is my thing is, so I'm not a person who's into pornography and all this shit. Like I'll see shit on my TikTok timeline because they actively push that in the algorithm. And I know that because when you're on TikTok, especially just as a dude, even like with the workout content that I put out, you start to like there's a plateau in your growth after a while. Just based off of different factors and whatnot. But when you look at what these chicks are doing, they're able to elevate. And I know a lot of porn chicks or whatever who get kicked off of TikTok, but pretty much if they stay within certain guidelines, their growth is exponential. I
I I think you'll find that with a lot of other things like video games, movies, general entertainment. I think just because fitness is a lot more niche, you get limited growth. But like sex, everybody's into sex, so
Yeah,
you're gonna
yeah.
get, yeah.
But okay, so my point is like I'm not big on pornography. I don't tell my guys to watch pornography. I don't think my guys should participate in masturbating and all that kind of shit. So so for me, I'm coming from that perspective, and I'm coming from being able to have that sexual discipline so that because a lot of dudes they'll substitute masturbating for actually getting pussy. Okay, they will say, well, I jerked off, and that way I'm not even gonna go pursue a chick because I got my nut. It's cool, whatever. All right. I don't support that shit. So and you can do whatever you want to do, but if you are in that industry, what happens is when people start watching pornography, their sexual perversions gradually increase. It's just the nature of the business. Well, first you're doing, soft core shit, then you're going to I don't know, like male, female, then you're going to female, female, and all types of shit. Now you're in the orgy section. Now you're in some weirdo shit that you never even thought that you'd be into, but that's what you're watching now. I think what happens is guys get addicted to pornography, then their sexual perversion starts to progress. And look, if you're a freak, as long as it's legal, hey, do what you got to do. But I think that what happens is these dudes get caught up in this pornography shit, and a lot of dudes don't have the mental capacity, unfortunately, to control themselves. And obviously, if they're gonna do something criminal, then we need to take that shit seriously. But I think that it is the nature of the beast. If you're gonna be in pornography, then you have to understand what comes from it. There's been several chicks who are getting stalked. It's several chicks.
Well,
I did a story on this stripper from Texas. She was a stripper. She was doing the escort thing on the side. She got into it with some old white dude. He ended up putting a tracker on her car and killed her. I would never justify that shit. But at the end of the day, I look at sex work as the dark realm of it's the to me it all that shit is like black market type shit. And I think prostitution should be legal, okay? Because I think that you could better control it, and it would stop a lot of this sex trafficking shit because people won't have to go through black market means to get a
sure.
bitch and all this type of shit. You know what I mean? If they want to pay for it.
Well,
But
I agree
I
with
don't
that.
think that I don't think that people should actively be involving themselves in it. I think it all of it comes with moderation.
Sure. So, like again, the example I gave you with my wife getting like harassment that I wouldn't receive. I think what a lot of these sex workers,
Well, you got to
and
understand that
will include like
women,
Instagram models in the
yeah,
umbrella term of sex work. Like when I haven't seen much of this personally, but when you're talking about them complaining about being objectified, I think there are sort of extremes that they're experiencing that you might not necessarily be aware of, where not only are they getting objectified, like not only are people saying like nice pussy or nice tits or
Mm-hmm,
something,
mm-hmm.
but it's a lot of like weird sexually violent stuff. It's also Brie Olson recently came out with a video, and I think it went viral on YouTube. A lot of the Red Pill community was talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
She was talking about how she's not even like treated like a human being anymore by, just people in real life. So I think that's like, again, a reasonable kind of complaint for these people to, like, these women to have. Like, I don't know, name a male porn star like Johnny Sins.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you think he, like, when he goes out in the real world, people are like, oh, you fucking fucked Riley Reid, you whore. You, like, fuck, pretty girls in the ass all the time for a living, you piece of shit. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no, that's just not happening to dudes.
Yeah,
But if you,
but
but if you, yeah,
that's
well, go on.
because women have infinitely more options than men by nature. Like men are more attracted to women than women are attracted to men. You see, so
um, I don't know how you're making that claim. Like, can you elaborate on that?
I mean, you can see it where all these women are saying, "Oh, I hate men. I don't need a man." Even in the
I've
and
seen men
I
say that same shit. Like,
see.
what do you mean?
I don't call myself red pill. I don't take pills. I take vitamins. So I say red vitamin because I come with a different perspective. I don't see no men saying I hate women. I see men complaining about not
Oh,
being able to get a girl. I be see men
dude.
complaining about not being able to get pussy. I don't see no
Okay.
dude saying I hate women. But
Oh,
but let me just
okay.
finish my
Well,
point about
let's.
the
Okay,
attraction, and then we could
sure.
go to that.
Yeah, sure. Like, finish your point, and then we'll talk about that point.
I I think that most men would have sex with most women, whereas most women would not have sex with most men. So men find things in women more attractive than women would find things in men. So that's why I say men are more attracted to women than women are attracted to men.
Okay, and that's the basis for that claim.
Yeah.
Okay, so the point you made earlier, that you don't see men saying they hate women, but you see women saying that, or something along those lines. Like, I don't need a
I
man or
mean, I've
something.
seen it before, but not in mass as
Sure.
much as the other way around.
I understand the general sentiment you
Yeah.
mean. So when we're talking about like any kind of bigoted behavior or speech, if it's generally frowned upon, bigots will hide. They won't outright say they hate black people, they hate gay people, or they
Mm-hmm.
hate whatever group. So what you'll find is they'll use some sort of language or some sort of justification for some sort of idea, like deporting black people. Like you'll see in the fucking like far alt-right nationalist groups, they
Mm-hmm.
won't say I hate black people or I can't stand them or something. They'll
Mm-hmm.
say like, oh, I'm a race realist. I don't like hate anybody based on their race, but I recognize that there's differences between races.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll go on and talk about like some bogus research of like black people being more violent, or how races shouldn't mix or something. And they'll like talk about how black and white couples will have children that are like more likely to be depressed. Like they'll go into all this like weird dumb like pseudoscience research. They'll use language to cover up some sort of bigotry rather than being a racist. They're a race realist. You'll
Mm-hmm.
see that sort of thing, and that's what you see in like the red pill community a lot. I think Darius M. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's one of the best examples of this.
Mm-hmm.
He's like stated on camera, like, "Oh, I don't hate women. I'm just realistic with female behavior."
Mm-hmm.
But he'll make videos about how men. He literally made a video where he flat out stated men are worth more than women, like as human beings. Like men are just better than women. And he went over like all these weird claims, like men are smarter, more industrious, harder working, like all this crazy shit.
Mm,
He's made a video where this couple who makes YouTube videos, they're talking about, couple issues. Like, if your one partner has a STD, like she had herpes and she got herpes from her previous partner, male partner, who didn't tell her he had herpes, he ended up giving it to her, and then she ended up breaking up with him, probably for like various reasons. When it like might have, been a cherry on top. And then she just got her boyfriend to discuss it with her, like, do you have an issue dating a girl with herpes and stuff? And then he's like, no, like, it's a little frightening, it's a bit annoying, but, because I like you as a person, it's, a thing I'm willing to look past. Darius
mm-hmm.
M goes and makes a video saying, "Oh, this woman's fucking trash. She's literally a piece of shit. She's used goods and she has a fucking disease." He literally, like, I'm not even exaggerating. This is what he actually said. Like probably the worst video I've ever seen him make was he played a clip of a girl who got fucking raped. She was having sex with a guy she liked, but that guy wasn't respecting her.
Mm-hmm.
She told a story that, she was having sex and it was hurting, and he told him to stop, and he just kept going and he wouldn't listen. Darius M starts laughing at her. Literally begins the video, oh yeah, and then like after she just shared a story of her getting raped, and then starts calling her like an idiot and a fucking whore and stuff.
Right.
So yeah, people will mask their bigotry, and I think the reason you see like women more comfortable with saying, "Oh, I can't stand men," or "I don't need men. They have all these fucking problems," or you see that sort of language
I
with
see that
women more.
more. I see that
Yeah,
more often,
and
but yeah.
I think that's just because they don't have to cover up like men do, where, misogyny has definitely become something that isn't um, like that just is very frowned upon. Like violence and hatred against women is something that you have to hide. Whereas misandry, the opposite, where,
Mm,
hatred or violence against men isn't something you have to cover up. And I think The View is a great example of this. There was a story of a guy whose girlfriend cut off his penis
right. And they
after they
were
got,
laughing at
and then
that
they were
shit. Yeah, I
like,
saw that. Yeah.
holy shit. You'd never ever see a group of men laugh about a girl who got their like vagina mutilated. So
Right, right.
I think that's the reason you see women more comfortable talking about their hatred or dislike or, some sort of bigoted stance against men, but you don't see that sort of language when it comes to men. But what men do is they cover it up, like Darius M. They'll say, "Oh yeah, I love women, but I'm realistic about female nature."
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You'll see that sort of language. But on that topic of like violence against sex workers, so you do agree violence against sex workers is a problem. Like you're not a fucking crazy wacko or anything.
Oh yeah, hell yeah. But
Yeah,
also I would say, and it is fucked up, but if you are going to be in the sex work industry, either you're gonna have to fend for yourself or you're gonna have to get a man to help fend for you. Because that's why a lot of these women attach themselves to pimps. Now that arrangement, in my opinion, doesn't work out because a lot of these dudes end up being abusive and stuff like that. But what I've seen now is, kind of your arrangement. Well, I didn't even know you was on that shit, but I've seen dudes, fucking a girl and doing the OnlyFans thing and whatnot. And that is pretty much the woman's protection, right? Because you ain't finna let nothing happen to your girl. But if the
sure.
woman is out here doing that shit alone, either she's gonna have to arm herself or she needs to get a man who is gonna protect her. It's a dangerous job.
Right.
Okay.
Like, I don't think we disagree on that point necessarily, but the way you spoke of this, you were like, "Why are they complaining? Like this is just something that comes with the territory." Like, I don't understand what the problem is with talking about these issues, and I think these issues have to be discussed. And I think that's like one of the very first steps to,
I think they're I think
like cultural and legislative changes to protect these people.
but they're already protected.
No, no,
That's
they're
my
not.
thing.
No, no, they're not. So look, when we were talking about like, sex workers, and sex workers is a big umbrella term. Like
Yeah.
that could be prostitution, pornography, OnlyFans, Instagram. I'm using that as an umbrella term. Yeah, I've seen like you were talking about how they were talking about being objectified. I haven't seen that much, but I have seen a lot of them complain about like certain dangers, like very odd treatment, being not only just objectified but like literally dehumanized, where like Brie Olson, she's not even treated like a human being when she goes out in public. It's like, oh look,
Hmm.
there's that slut fucking loves cum, when she's getting like a fucking bagel. um
But my thing is like, don't they already know this? Like,
well,
don't they
dude,
understand that if they go into that
sure,
industry, then
sure,
dudes are going to feel that way about
i'm
them?
i'm
It's about
sure a
facing
lot of them are
reality for me.
aware. Well, dude, I'm sure a lot of them are aware, but like guess what, I'm sure people, not very long ago were aware that if they had an interracial relationship, like a black man and a white woman dating, that would have a lot of fucking problems.
Hmm.
And people were willing to go through those hardships, but at the same time, like just because they're going through those hardships, knowing that they'd have those hardships with society being as racist as it was, I don't see how that means it's unreasonable to complain, talk about these things, bring these issues up. When sex workers like Brie Olson are making videos, like literally crying on camera, talking about how they're being dehumanized just because of the work they've done in the sex industry, rather than like taking it seriously and being like, damn, like this isn't right, there has to be some sort of societal change, and rather standing up for these sex workers, you're
Hmm.
like, oh well, you knew that was part of the business, like that's just the reality. Like, why don't you take that attitude?
Standing up for them.
Yeah, like why, like rather than saying like, okay, like, I'm not saying it's right, but like that's the business, you shouldn't, like why don't you say like, I agree, that's totally fucked up. Men shouldn't treat
Yeah,
women that way. Like
it's fucked
why
up.
wouldn't you take that stance?
It's fucked up, but at the same time, I I can't get over the fact that they see examples of this from other women going into the sex industry. If you're going out in public, I guarantee that people are going to view you in that way. So, and it's fucked up, but at the end of the day, you have to take what comes with it. That's my thing. Like, obviously, we want society to change for the best. We want these things to happen. And people can say, "Oh, don't slut shame." We've already had the slut walk. We've had all of these movements to say, "Hey, it's wrong to objectify in all this stuff," but it's still happening online. A lot of these chicks
Well,
is
not
still
just online,
happening
and
in
it's
real life.
happening
Yeah,
everywhere.
right, right. It's still
Yeah.
happening in real life. It's a problem, but are you talking about like legislation to stop dudes from
So
catcalling?
no, 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 that's not what I'm talking about at
It's like
all.
awareness, spreading
I
awareness.
am so what confuses me about your stance, and I think we kind of fundamentally agree here, but this is one area where I think we do kind of split apart. Like, you do think it's wrong to slut shame, right?
It depends on who you are. It depends on the context, because if I'm a father, and slut shaming is a broad term in general. So if
I
you're a
don't think it's a
father,
broad term. Like let's define what we mean by slut shaming. So shaming women for sexually promiscuous behavior.
right, right. So if you're a father, you don't want your daughter to be promiscuous. That's just a
Why?
natural feeling.
So you're
You said
saying it's
why?
okay for like I don't know why as a father you'd really okay, if you had a male child, would you slut shame them or do the like male equivalent if
I mean,
you see your
I
son having sex with women?
would have, like, being realistically, I would have the birds and the bees discussion.
Well, sure.
When you 18, you can do whatever you want to do. It is what it is. Like, I'm not going to come back on you and be like, "Oh, you did this with this thing and this, that, or there." Like, nah. To me, I'm not really gonna go out and slut shame, but what a lot of chicks categorize as slut shaming, like for example, I think Ti, and I think it was a little OD, but Ti got he was put in the media because
Oh, that
he
was fucked.
yeah, he
Like
was
that was
checking his
creepy as
daughter's
shit.
hymen through the fucking doctor or some shit.
Oh, that was
Yeah, that
disgusting.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. But at the same time, if you're her, if that's your child, then you can't really tell somebody, oh, you can't guarantee that your daughter is abiding by your rules unless you're doing that.
Okay, well, I think you're pointing out like a huge societal problem. Like women's sexuality is something that has to be controlled and is looked down upon, frowned upon, but male sexuality, it's like it's fine. Like you told me like okay, if you had a son who was fucking a bunch of girls, oh, I'd give him the birds and the bees talk. But then when I
No, I
brought
said
up okay,
I give both of
well,
them the birds.
sure, but I mean, the way you brought it up with in the female context, you were like, well, I think I'd really try to discourage my daughter from like having sex, like, pretty much with like various dudes as much as she wants. But
Because there's more risk.
okay, well, there's more risk with women because they can get pregnant, sure, but outside of that issue, like it sounds like you have a
There's
bigger
more risk
problem.
emotionally as well.
I'm not entirely sure about that. You want to
Well,
explain?
it's about compatibility. The more partners a woman is with, the harder it is for her to, um, be compatible with another guy because she's out here comparing the last few guys that she dealt with. Although you may think that,
What? Wouldn't. Well, I mean, the more partners you have, whether you're male or female, you're gonna compare.
yeah, definitely. But I've seen studies that show that when a woman has more partners, it increases the likelihood of her getting divorced or not feeling happy in her
Oh,
marriage.
I know the exact. Yeah, so that was from it was from like a family statistics. Yeah, I can't remember the name of the organization, but it's family. It was something like some family planning organization where they looked at that. Yeah, we can actually talk about that for a little bit. So yeah,
Mhm.
the more sexual partners a woman has before getting married, the greater the likelihood they will divorce within the first 4 years of marriage.
Mhm.
Actually, you will find the exact same relationship with men, but it's a stronger relationship. Not only is it more linear, so actually with women, past one sexual partner before marriage, likelihood of divorce within the first 4 years goes up. Then at around like 10 partners, it goes down a bit. And then after like 18 or something, it goes back up. With men, it's almost completely linear, and I think the actual effect size is greater. Where if you look at like the difference between 0 to 20 sexual partners before marriage,
Mhm.
the risk of divorce is actually greater for men than for women. So that would be a problem for both sexes.
Who are those divorces being initiated by?
Well,
Like
I don't
when
see how it matters. You can find the same associations.
because if we know that women are majority filing for the divorces, and if a man has more sexual partners, like you said from the study, then it's more likely that he would get divorced than the woman. It's about the reason. to why there is a divorce going on, because
Um,
a lot of divorces are attributed to financial things.
so there's two points I want to make here. So for one thing, um, the number of sexual partners you have before marriage and its relationship to divorce, I think we can assume safely that it's likely because the person knows that they might be able to do better.
Hmm.
So they know that they can have other relationship success. So if that relationship isn't doing so great, they can have another relationship just because options are available. Secondly, they probably have more relationship experience, so they know, like, they might be able to tell, okay, this is like abusive, and it's time to cut ties with this person, or things aren't working out in some other way, time to cut ties. They
Hmm.
have like that sort of experience and maturity where they know when to quit. There's probably some other cultural things too, like people who get married without any sexual partners. Like you could argue it might be practically arranged, where it's like, oh, hey, daughter, I met this nice boy from church. You're gonna marry him because I like that person's father or family. You probably see more of those situations where it just within their culture, it's more arranged or set up. The way relationships are handled in their family is different, and in their culture, divorce is just more frowned upon. You could probably argue that as well.
Hmm.
Now, I don't see this as a bad thing. When we're talking about, like, choices and people being able to make reasonable decisions, I don't see how this relationship between sexual partners and divorce, that's not like an indication of anything bad going on to me. That's just an indication that people
So,
are using their agency and making good sound decisions that are benefiting them.
I mean, what do you mean by good? Just splitting up in general, good sound decisions? Because from my perspective, I think that people should fight for their marriage if they're going to get married, or if they're going to get married, especially if they have kids. They should work to keep that marriage going forward. And
Sure.
a lot of times, what I see is women who have multiple dudes. I'm talking about like 20, 30, 40. They end up having kids out of wedlock. They end up having kids out of wedlock and destroying that family lineage for, however long it takes for that kid to actually realize that, hey, you know, I wasn't brought up in the best family structure, but now I need to work to create something of my own. And that's the cycle that I see perpetuated in our community over and over again. So a lot of my points go to focusing on the Black community in general. Um,
Okay.
but
Um.
what happens is a lot of these chicks are dealing with dudes who, for one, they just know ain't right. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And
Okay.
and when you deal with too many dudes, then you come jaded into the next relationship. And I know, it's a whole bunch of dudes who end up jaded, but what I see is that these women will say, hey, these are my standards. Then they deal with a dude. They say, oh, I forewent one of my standards to deal with this guy and it didn't work out. So I'm going to try and raise the standard and raise the standard. And it's like, you're getting into diminishing returns. Like you're trying to one up the next guy until you're just going to be ass out and single.
Okay. Here. Okay. So when we're talking about this, for one thing, like, we do have to acknowledge effect size of this exposure. So, if we're talking about one versus 20 plus sexual partners before marriage,
Mm-hmm.
for women, this is coming from Institute of Family Studies. I can actually show. Let me see if I can share this on screen. Where the fuck is this? Sorry, I'm not entirely. I haven't used this in a little bit.
Yeah,
Start the
it
share.
should be like a green symbol
Oh,
at the
share
bottom
screen.
that
Yeah,
says
there we
share
go.
screen. Yeah.
Okay, I'll share. Damn it, I don't think you can see it.
Yeah, I can see it.
Um, no, or no, you can see it. The chat can't see it. I'll just copy the
Oh,
link
okay.
so the chat can see. Okay. All right, so this is table 1, women's number of lifetime sexual partners, chances of being very happy in one's marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So, you are talking about one partner here, 64% chance of being happy, 21 plus, 57%. So that's only what, a 8 or 9% difference. That's not a very large effect size. So if we're gonna like have a discussion on like, oh well, I'm seeing all these women being super promiscuous, like banging a bunch of dudes, but then like, all their relationships suck. Well, if we're talking about like serious long-term relationships like marriage, it doesn't really seem to greatly increase chances of like breakups, divorce, unhappiness in marriage. Yeah, I think with divorce between like again 1 versus 21 plus partners, like you're only talking about a 9% difference. Like again, the effects it's practically not even worth talking about, right? It's not like it doubles your chances of divorce. So
Yeah,
I
I
think
see your point.
right. So like when we're talking about this, it's practically not even worth talking about. And what's probably worth talking about is just partner selection, not even just like, oh, has your chick, banged a bunch of dudes before marriage? Like, no, other aspects of her personality, character, history are going to matter more, and just
Yeah,
how you
and
two get
I,
along. And what's
but
also
I also
interesting in
think.
the male, so we can go down to the male section.
Mhm.
Men's number of lifetime sexual partners and chances of being happy in one's marriage. There's actually a much greater effect size. Well, maybe not much, but again, I shouldn't say that, but there's a greater effect size. So one
Yeah.
partner versus 21 partners, 71 versus 59%. So you're talking about a 12%, a 12% difference
Right.
versus only like what, 7 or 8. And again, chance of divorce being higher as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, when we're talking about this, and this is an issue that I have with a lot of the red pill community, they don't focus on how these things affect men, and they're just like it's always women's fault, basically, or it's
Mm-hmm.
always something women have to do, but not men. So, if you're going to discuss this topic, I think you have to not have that sort of gender bias and recognize like, oh, if you're going to make a big deal about number of sexual partners before having a very serious long-term relationship, then you should be discouraging men from having a lot of sexual partners if you're worried about how this is going to affect long-term relationship success in like marriage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't disagree. My thing is, what I do is show dudes what to look out for, show dudes certain characteristics that a lot of these shorties have that are not beneficial for a long-term relationship.
Sure.
And a lot of times the party girl, all types of, and it's the same thing with a dude if he's out here partying and going crazy and not with his responsibilities. But my thing in particular is I'm focusing on look out for this, look out for that.
Well,
Not
sure.
necessarily, oh,
I
she's
I could understand since you're like giving male dating advice, you're not gonna, you are gonna focus on the male kind of side of things,
yeah.
what men should look out for, not
But I
what women
also
should
tell
look out
guys that
for. But
you got to get yourself right too.
sure, yeah,
Mentally, you got to get your money right so you don't go out bad. Like, I don't know if you heard about this story, but it was another guy. It was a guy in Baltimore. He killed his wife and his ex girlfriend over a custody battle.
yeah,
So these things happen, and for one, there were mistakes that he made. He was in a bad relationship with his wife. They got divorced, and then he has a kid with another woman. and the same thing happened where she's using his kid, like parental alienation tactics to basically get under his skin and get back at him for a failed relationship and whatnot. So I see these things happening all the time just in my personal life. So that's mainly what I'm speaking towards. If you're looking at these women and their past and their background and the types of dudes, which I think is more important, not just the volume, but the types of dudes that they dealt with, it can show you a better representation of, how that woman is going to be to you. I always tell my guys, you need to ask, if you're going to deal with a woman, you need to ask her, what has the last 5 dudes that she dealt with done for her physically, emotionally, sexually, mentally, and spiritually. So if you're getting that information from that woman and then she just says, oh, well, the last 5 dudes that I dealt with didn't really do shit for me, then you understand, okay, then either you're a step up to what she's about to experience and you need to be a representation of that, or she has just poor taste and she's gonna take her own experiences out on you. Because I like a lot of it for me is I've dealt with chicks where they'll be with a dude and now in the relationship all they talking about is how don't do me like this, don't do me like that. I'm not here to be compared to the next guy. A lot of these chicks don't come with a clear slate, and that's why you see so much of the, oh, I hate men, I don't need men, this, that, third. Obviously, a lot of these chicks are getting done wrong by certain dudes, but at the same time, if you're a guy and you are really looking for something that's going to be valuable and something that's going to be meaningful, you need to understand where she's coming from.
Sure, I'd agree with that. But to get back to the discussion about like female promiscuity, and like slut shaming, like again, when I brought up like talking about sex to like your daughter versus your son, it seemed like you were totally against the idea. Like it kind of disgusts you in a way to think of your daughter sleeping with a bunch of dudes.
Nah. I said that I would have the birds and the bees conversation with both of them.
Okay. But you would recognize there is like an issue with slut shaming. Like again, where we divert, it seems, is just how we discuss these problems. Because for you, it just seems like you have absolutely no sympathy for these women who are dealing with these problems like slut shaming. And then you like, rather than saying like, men have to change their attitudes, like it's disgusting that we're treating women this way, you're just coming at it from the perspective like, well, what do you expect? You're like, that's a problem. Right? Like, why are you complaining? But any other social issue, like racism, I doubt you'd have that same kind of attitude.
I mean, when it comes to that, like I said, you understand how the world is. Now you have to adapt to what that is. Obviously, we have all these movements that are saying, don't slut shame, don't slut shame, don't slut shame. But then the women are going out and being more into the sex work, and it's more women going into this stuff. So
right.
Even if we normalize all of that, which I don't think that it should be normalized on a broad scale, like shorties is just getting drafted to OnlyFans once they turn 18, which is happening more often now. I don't think that's good for society. So I think there does need to be some pushback. Now, obviously, you shouldn't go, hey, you're such a fucking slut, this, that, and the third. I think it needs to come from a more educational standpoint. But I also think if women are going into this this field and they don't understand what they're signing up for, then I don't feel sorry for you, nah.
Okay. You gave a few ideas there. So like the reason there are these sort of movements like slut walk or these feminist sort of protests where you see them like going out topless or sometimes like totally naked,
Yeah, that shit
like
wild.
saying slut and proud and stuff. The reason they're doing that again is because there is a problem with slut shaming.
But do you think that makes it better or worse?
I would say like at least that there is some sort of protest going on. There is some sort of pushback against a negative aspect of culture. I don't know if that type of activism is necessarily effective, but at the very least, I think it should be. I don't think it should be frowned upon that somebody's willing to stand up against it.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I don't care, but I'm also not going to shed a tear because you're mad that some dude is in your comment section saying you got a nice ass when
Well,
you posted an
that's
ass picture.
okay. Again, that's like taking things way out of context. So I would agree with you if there is like a hypothetical woman who's like literally putting their ass like directly in the fucking camera. The whole point of the picture is to be like, hey, look at my ass, jerk off to it. And then
Mhm.
somebody in the comments is like, oh, nice ass. How fucking dare you? Like, I'm sure some like weird, crazy person like that
But
exists.
I think that's happening more often than not. Like even if you
No,
look at
that's not what I'm seeing.
even if you look at like girls who, because I'm 26 years old. I don't know how old you are, but
I'm 30.
okay, so I'm talking about young woman, 18, my age range, 18 to 26, whatever. They're moving they're moving more towards sexualizing themselves online now more than ever. I always say that like Generation Z women have the adult or have the digital footprint of an adult film actress because a lot of them are moving toward even if they're
Where did you
not
get that
directly
quote
in.
from? I've seen a few red pillars say that. Who did you hear that
They
from
stole it from
initially?
me. They stole it from me.
Sure about that?
You said
Okay.
what?
You're sure about that? You didn't hear that from anybody else?
Oh no, I guarantee they stole it from me. I'm the only person who ever said that. Well, I'm not the only person who ever said that, but I'm the first person who said it on YouTube.
What do you mean by that claim? They have the digital footprint of an adult film actress because your average woman isn't on like OnlyFans or doing porn.
I said Generation Z. I didn't say
Right, like Generation Z. What year does that generation even start from?
96, 95, I think.
Okay, so they would be roughly like in their 20s now?
Yeah, like between like 18 to
1995 to
25.
2001. That's what it says when I just do a quick Google search.
Yeah.
So yeah, they'd be like mid 20s, early to mid 20s, roughly.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
Um,
obviously it's an exaggeration. Like I'm not saying that every, Generation Z girl is fucking on camera, but
right.
a lot of the pictures that they're putting out are sexually provocative and
So what do you mean by sexually provocative, by the way? Because like,
like
yeah, I
cleavage, booty
know,
pictures.
okay, well, yeah, I know a lot of girls who like will show off their butt if they get a nice pair of jeans, or if
Mm-hmm.
they have
Mm-hmm.
nice chest, like yeah, they'll wear a crop top or something.
Mm-hmm.
How is that a digital footprint of a porn star?
I
Like,
mean,
buddy, I
the
know dudes, like, how many fucking dudes who are in that same age range who work out and, like, will post a shirtless pic? Like,
yeah,
it's the
and
same
my
thing.
thing
I
it
don't see how that's any
nah
different.
it
If anything, that's more
it
sexually provocative because they're wearing less clothing.
it doesn't have the same effect though.
Okay, well,
Like girls aren't gonna get under my.
men don't have as many, like, sexually stigmatized body parts as women. So, like, yeah, if
I
a
don't
guy
know. I
takes
mean, I
off his
see.
shirt, it's not the same thing as a girl taking off her shirt. Also, like, a lot of dudes aren't trying to appeal specifically to gay dudes, and it's, like, kind of weird for a guy to, like, show off his ass the way a girl would show off her ass. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
like
that's what I'm
you
saying.
should,
They're two
well, you should
different
take
things.
things, well, dude, you should take things into context. Like, most women aren't, like, the way society looks at, like, an attractive female versus an attractive man. An attractive man is going to do something like, work out, post a pic online, like, flexing or something. An
Mm-hmm.
attractive woman is going to post a pic just, like in a crop top or something, showing a little bit of cleavage, or, you've seen the whole post where it's like,
So, but the reach is
selfie,
gonna
like
the
that, like.
yeah, the reach is gonna be
So,
different though.
well, yeah, because there's a bigger market for an attractive female versus an
Right.
attractive male. So yeah, like that sort of thing's gonna get more reach, but it just seems disingenuous to call something like that digital footprint of a porn star. Like that's
But I'm saying
it's a complete double standard.
most guys don't want their girl online, half naked pictures,
Well,
whatnot.
honestly, well,
It
honestly, most men are insanely insecure. I can understand why, like, most dudes online wouldn't want their girlfriend like shoving dildos up their ass for everybody to see. I can kind of understand that. Honestly, I wouldn't care personally, but
Mhm.
I could understand why somebody wouldn't really want that because there's like this sort of possession aspect to dating where it's like you're just mine. I get that, but again, like if we're talking about what most women do online, where it's like, okay, they'll wear a nice outfit that makes themselves look really good, and they'll take a photo of it. And again,
Mhm.
what society sees like expects of an attractive woman is okay, you're supposed to be curvy, so you have to like show that off in some way. So, like, yeah, no shit, they're gonna post, like, a photo showing off their ass in a nice pair of jeans, or, like, what their
I'm not
breasts
talking
look
about a
like in a
nice pair
nice
of
top,
jeans though. I'm talking
right?
about
Bikini
like
or something, like,
bikini, G-string bikini, all that kind of stuff.
okay.
So if you're looking for, my thing is, okay, women are looking for a certain type of dude. Most dudes do not, especially in the business world, in the corporate world. I'm in real estate, so if I'm, in a professional setting, I don't want my girl out there like buck naked online because that represents poorly on me. Not just that, even if I don't
Why would
care.
that represent poorly on you? What is so bad about showing sex and sexuality? And let me
I
ask you
just
this. Let me ask you this. If this were the
mhm.
other way around and you were dating a girl who was in the corporate world and you were doing like hardcore porn where you were like showing off your cock and balls and everything, would that reflect worse on her, or would
I think it
you dating a
reflects
porn star reflect worse on you?
I think it reflects the equal amount. I think it reflects poorly
You think that
equally.
would be viewed equally?
I don't think they'll be viewed equally, but from my perspective, I think that
Honestly,
it reflects poorly. I like dudes are like, oh, you're so lucky, you're a male porn star. Me personally, I don't think that's like, I don't glorify male porn
okay,
stars.
so I've known people who have been in that situation. I've known like a fair amount of people who are in sex work and they've been in that sort of issue where like a girl is a lawyer, she's dating a dude who's a porn star,
Mm-hmm.
or a guy is like, say a realtor or something, and like he's dating a girl who does porn.
Mm-hmm.
In both situations, I've seen it actually affect the woman more negatively. Where the dude's dating the porn star, it's like, oh, sick, you're dating like, fucking hot ass girl. Like if a guy's dating Riley Reid, oh, sick, dude, yeah, nice pussy. But like the girl will be treated like absolute shit, and they'll be like, oh yeah, obviously, you're gonna fucking try to sink your claws into a high status man who's making a good living, fucking slut. That's what you
Mm-hmm.
do for a living, fucking bitch. And then again, if a
I don't
woman's
know people who
dating,
go that hard. I don't know people who go that hard,
oh,
honestly.
dude, like again, maybe like it might be beneficial to you to like not just talk about these women and actually like I think it would benefit your channel, dude. You might want to actually do kind of what
Now I
uh
know a lot of like women in the sex work, and like I got like ex girls who was strippers and shit like that,
sure,
whatever.
but I mean, it might even benefit your channel to do like what Fresh and Fit does and maybe get some girls who are like in the sex industry or something, or whose boyfriends are in the sex industry, talk about the shit. Just don't be retarded like them.
Right.
Right. But because it might give you an interesting perspective. Because I knew a girl who had a situation where she was dating a guy who was like doing porn,
Mm-hmm.
And then she was like in the corporate world being a lawyer, and constantly her like colleagues would make fun of her and like call her the whore and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's bad. Women get the short end of things like all the time. And again, there's a reason why you see this big movement with some of these feminists with like these slut walks and protests where they have their shirts off and saying like proud slut. It's because like something has to be fucking done. Maybe it's not the most effective type of activism, but women get the short end
And
of things when it comes to
and
sexuality all
and
the
that's what
fucking time. And look, I think if you dealt with enough
I
women
agree.
and actually saw the world they were in, I think you'd be a lot more sensitive.
Now I agree, but at the same time, the way that they're going about it, I believe is counterintuitive. Um, my thing is how the purveyors of feminism, how do you think they would look back and say, what their protests are doing, the slut walk and all this kind of stuff where they're just going topless and that, how do you think they would look at it? Do you think that they would have the perspective of, oh, you guys, you're doing it the right way, this is
I
exactly.
genuinely, well, for one thing, I don't really care. Secondly, even if they did do that, I'm really not sure how they'd look on that. The suffragettes, you realize they committed terrorism. Like they were blowing up buildings. In France, they literally got pole arms, like halberds and shit,
Mhm.
and marched through the fucking street and like broke into parliament and like demanded they get voting rights. So they were pretty fucking hardcore, dude. So I don't know
No,
how
but
they'd really I don't know how they'd really view the whole like slut walk thing.
yeah, I just
Back
think it's
then there
ineffective.
were well, sure, you could argue it's ineffective or something, but something has to be done. And yeah, when people get frustrated like that, it's understandable that they'd like just get so fucking fed up with something that yeah, they'd kind of do something like that, like go outside topless, and it's like, yeah, I'm a fucking slut, fuck you. Like I can understand wanting to do that, right?
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you.
But yeah, with your videos, dude, it just seems like you like again, I don't always disagree with some of the things you're saying. It just
Hmm.
seems like you're only coming at things from the male perspective, not seeing the female perspective. And like throughout this discussion, it seems like you're just not sensitive to the female issues at all, like the slut shaming thing. And it's like, oh, what do you expect? Coming from that angle. But if we were talking about some other social issue like racism, where okay, like if a white couple, like a white girl got with a black dude, and then they're both getting harassed constantly for being an interracial couple, you'd be like, oh, that's fucked up, like what the hell. But when it comes to slut shaming or something, you're
Is
like,
that
oh well, what do you expect?
now? I was just saying, like, is are you seeing that now? Interracial couples getting harassed for
No,
that
I'm not
now?
saying now. I'm saying like if that were a social issue today.
Oh yeah. I mean, obviously both are wrong. Like I could say, okay, yeah, I would feel sorry for a chick if niggas is going crazy and saying this, that, and third, like trying to tar and feather her online or in, figuratively or in person. But all in all, I just think I what I see is a lot of chicks going like you said, just going out, oh yeah, I'm a slut, embracing this shit. And I don't think that is beneficial to teaching younger women how to, because all that does is just give people more reason to objectify you.
The point of doing that is to like say, look, there's nothing wrong with being a slut. There's nothing wrong with me being sexually promiscuous. That's what they're trying
But
to
I
point out.
I
It's
think
not
there
that like
is.
I think they acknowledge full well that yeah, if you take your top off or something like that, dudes are gonna like get a boner at your tits.
Mhm.
I don't think that's their problem. The problem they have is the way they're completely and utterly disrespected by being sexually promiscuous.
Right. And I don't stand for
Um,
the disrespect. I'm just
okay,
saying
cool.
I don't
Okay,
think that it is productive for a woman to embrace the slut culture and then expect to get a
they're
man
not.
on the back end and expect him to just be all good with it.
Well, look, this isn't even just like embracing slut culture. Like women are slut shamed because they had sex with one dude in high school.
Right.
It's that bad. Like just because okay, they dated a dude, had sex after a few weeks, fucking whore. Like that's like it's really bad. And I think if you talk to more women about these issues they're facing, I think you'd be a lot more understanding and sensitive, and you wouldn't just say, "Well, oh, what do you expect?" Like I think it is important to tell women, like, okay, look, if you get into the sex industry, expect to have these problems.
Hmm.
I don't think that's a bad thing, but I see you kind of normalizing and accepting the sort of slut shaming culture when you say like, oh well, what do you expect? Rather
Well, I
than
mean,
saying like, you know what,
I'm
I agree
accepting
with you. It's
reality.
totally well,
I'm
no. There's a
accepting
difference
reality, and I'm
between
also saying that it's wrong to do. But like you said, educating them and saying, hey, if you're gonna go, like obviously, if a chick is in like some, even girls in hijabs is still getting slut shamed and all that kind of stuff. Like I get that. I never would justify anybody doing that. Um, so
right, but I mean, let's say, well, I think there's
and
a
I would
very
feel
good
bad for that shit too.
Sure, like I think this is a very good kind of modern example of this thing playing out in a racial context. The George Floyd situation. Now, if
Hmm.
George Floyd wasn't a criminal, if he didn't try to fake the use a fake bill or whatever it was,
Right.
and he didn't try to resist arrest, and he wasn't on fucking fentanyl, that wouldn't have played out. He would still be alive. But what the cop did was completely fucked up and wrong, right? I
Right.
think we can both
Right.
agree that. And I think the protests and everything that happened were completely justified. Now, you had a large group of people, mostly retarded conservative racists, like
Hmm.
Steven Crowder saying, well, who fucking cares? Like, the guy was a criminal. What do you expect? Like, what do you expect to happen when you're fucking fucked up on fentanyl and you're committing a crime and you're resisting arrest? Like when I see you making a video about women complaining about getting disrespected, slut shamed, and stuff for being in porn, and rather than saying, that's fucked up what happened, I agree. It's totally wrong
But I
that men are
believe I
treating
did
you
say
that
it's
way.
fucked up and dudes shouldn't do that.
Sure, but like again, I'm talking about your videos. When I'm looking at your videos, I get a different sense than when I talk to you, and maybe this is something you want to keep in mind when you make future videos. I get the sense when I watch your videos that rather than saying, that's fucked up, men shouldn't treat you like that and stuff, you do the like conservative, retarded, racist thing, like Crowder does. Well, what do you expect when you're in fucking porn? Well, like, what do you expect? Yeah, obviously, dudes are gonna do that, right? Like, so
I mean,
it might it like
even with the
again
George Floyd
changing
shit,
changing the way you make these videos and explaining yourself better and using a different kind of tone or maybe getting across these messages a little better might get rid of that sort of misunderstanding because it does come off bad when you make some of these videos. Like maybe instead you could say like, it's fucked up that dudes do this. It's totally wrong. But when women get into the sex industry, they should be aware before it happens that this is something you are going to have to deal with, and you should just make a decision on whether or not that's worth it. If the money and the career choice is worth it, like that would be a better way to come across. But like when I watch your videos, the tone and everything is completely different. Where rather than like recognizing like it's fucked up, dude shouldn't do that. It's like,
hmm
oh well, what do you expect? Like the conservative retards.
yeah. See, I mean, I believe in that video. I did say yeah, it was fucked up that dudes were doing that. But even with the George Floyd situation, like I think that dudes, we in general, we as a community, we have to understand what card, what hand we're being dealt with. Obviously,
I agree.
he got his justice, and I agree with it and whatnot. But I also don't agree with us making him the
I'm
martyr,
not
us
saying
making
he's a
him the
hero.
staple of the community.
Yeah, he's definitely not. George Floyd isn't a hero. He's
Right.
not a great person. But what we should focus on is the injustice that was committed against him. And there's a lot of Like, look, I don't know if that cop was racist or not.
Hmm.
Like, there was recently a white guy, who was in a wheelchair. He was armed, he had a knife, but he
Yeah, I
was
saw
no
that shit.
threat. He got shot
Yeah,
in the back 9 times.
yeah,
So, this shit happens to black people and white people, and
right.
I don't know if the guy who killed George Floyd was racist or not. But regardless, both of these people were in the wrong. George Floyd was in the wrong. He committed a crime. He was on drugs, whatever. The guy in the wheelchair
Right,
stole something and he had a knife.
right.
That they're not heroes by any stretch of the imagination. But what was done to them was completely fucking wrong. We can
Right.
recognize that, and I don't think it's wrong to say, like, look, they shouldn't have been doing that. But again, when you completely move the discussion to, well, they shouldn't have been doing that in the first place, so, like, whatever, brush off the injustice that was committed and just
Hmm.
focus on, look, they shouldn't be doing that, just like how I kind of see you do with these videos you're making on girls in the sex industry. Well, that's what happens. Like, when you're in the sex industry, you're going to get harassed. You
Hmm.
know how that, like, you understand what I'm saying, like how it looks when
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
center the discussion around that. Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And I understand what you're saying. I could be more sensitive to the sex industry, but at the same time,
Well, it's not
I
really
don't
just the
want.
sex industry. I just think women as a whole end up just getting treated badly, just in general. Like, just normal women. Like, buddy, I have a friend on Facebook. She said she was trying to get a job at a pizza place. I think she's like 20 or something.
Hmm.
She was trying to get a job at a pizza place. The manager there asked her during a fucking job interview, how many times do you masturbate a week? And then she was like, I don't know, like three, four. Oh yeah, that's hot.
He should be fired then.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. But I mean, all the time. Like, it's this happens more often than you'd think. Like, this sort of discrimination.
Hmm.
It's not just overt, like, I fucking hate women, all women just fucking stupid sluts. There's just a lot more minor things. Like, when I'm out with my wife, she had to use the bathroom, and she has like an issue where she can very easily get infections. So if there's like a dirty public bathroom, she can't use it. She has to go to like a much cleaner kind of toilet.
Hmm.
There was a bathroom at this event we were at that's normally open to the public, that's kept really clean, and she knows it's kept clean. But for some reason, it was like that venue was booked for a private event, and there's a security guard there saying you can't use the bathroom. Well, like, what is a reasonable person gonna do, right? Like, okay, look, I have a medical problem. I get infections easily. Can I just, like, it's just one time, okay? Like, can you just let me use the bathroom? He wouldn't let her use the bathroom. Just wouldn't. When I went there and talked to the guy, like, look, my wife has a fucking problem. She's just gonna use it once. Like, is it a big deal? And he was like, okay, yeah, sure, she can. She said the exact same thing to the dude. He wouldn't let her in. Like, women just aren't fucking treated like people and given respect. Like, it happens a lot. Like, maybe you're a lot more reasonable than most dudes, but you have to recognize there's a lot of fucking assholes. Like, the world
Yeah,
is filled
definitely,
with
definitely.
assholes.
I agree.
So
I
yeah.
agree. Yeah, I mean, I hear where you're coming from, and I'll definitely highlight that in future videos. Is both sides. My thing is when I'm talking, I'm speaking directly toward men in a pretty much blunt fashion,
Sure.
to where I'm giving practical, like direct advice, and I'm not going into every single nuance of, but women are this and women are that, and they get treated like shit here and there. So,
Sure.
you know,
I don't
but I
expect
do
you.
recognize I
Yeah.
do recognize that that is the case in a lot of instances where women are being discriminated against, just like any other group could be discriminated against. Like there's so many issues in the world in general that you could put a microscope on and be like, hey, this is wrong here, this is wrong there. When I'm speaking, I'm directly speaking toward men, catered toward men. So when I do these disclaimers, like going into the other side, I say, look, it's not right, but just understand that if you got a girl and she's out here doing this, a lot of dudes are going to be attracted to her, hitting her up. in the DMs making crazy claims. And you got to be prepared for that. You got to understand that. And
Sure.
even I would go as far as to say that certain women who don't have, I guess, who don't present themselves in a moderate fashion, you shouldn't even deal with them. Me personally, for dudes that follow me. So
Sure. So when you're talking about dating advice in a male context, I don't expect you to like every fucking time, say like, okay, well, listen, like women have to deal with like, I get that. I get that. But there's a lot of videos on your channel where you are just directly criticizing women, talking about women, like the video about women objectifying themselves. So I think you can improve kind of the way you interact with these topics. And like, again, I get the sense that you just aren't aware of what some of these women are putting up with. And I also get the sense that you don't even know what they're talking about in some scenarios. Like, again, you made a video where you were talking about sexual liberation of women. And then you played a clip of a girl who admitted to giving a guy a blowjob for money because she was broke. Like,
right.
That's not sexual. That has nothing to do with sexual liberation. That's just desperation.
No, I was the second part of that video was when she was talking about pegging her boyfriend. So that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. A lot of these women who, in my opinion, that's some weird shit. Just me personally. Like, to me, that's some weird shit. That represents the sexual liberation and these pansexual movements and all this kind of stuff, like free love. Like I said, you can do what you want. I don't advise guys to go on the back end and try and cuff these girls.
Women who are what,
out
pansexual
here doing sexual acts that would be constituted as like sexual liberation, like orgies,
give me an example.
or I would say orgies or pegging dudes, or
well, I mean,
weird sexual
shit. There are couples who are swingers and have like orgies together and stuff. I don't. If you're okay,
I'm not big on that.
If you're if you're a normie, let's say, and you have normal kind of sexual behaviors. Yeah, you might not want to be with a girl who's into swingers parties and having orgies. Like, you're just not going to be compatible enough. And I mean the pegging thing. Like, okay, if you're not getting pegged and she like needs that, like, again, that just seems like, again, a sexual incompatibility thing. So, do you have a deeper like fundamental issue with that, or?
No, I mean, like I said, I just don't think I don't think guys should be out here trying to cuff those types of chicks. And I'm speaking toward dudes who follow my channel, and most of us are just like regular guys. You know what I mean? We
okay, so jobs, you're just
we do regular shit.
So when you're saying this, you're just saying if you're a normal person with normal sexual activity, you probably shouldn't be with somebody who's into swingers parties and orgies, just because you're not going to be compatible in a relationship. Like, that's the extent.
Pretty much.
Okay. Yeah.
But also the titles of the videos are there to get people to say, oh, what does he mean by that? And then go into the video. But then when you watch the video, I explain myself. I don't know if you watch that full video about the don't date the sexually liberated woman, but I explained that, if a girl is out here pegging and shit, you don't want to be on that. You don't want to be on that, bro.
Like, you mean getting paid to peg dudes?
No.
Or just is into pegging?
No. She her boy in the second part of the clip, her boyfriend. She was exposing her boyfriend because apparently he was abusive or some shit. Did you watch the full clip? Yeah, but apparently he was abusive, and then he put out that she had sucked dick for $1,000, and then she goes and records him to try and get him on camera abusing her, And then she pushed his buttons by saying, "Oh, that's why you let me peg you or whatnot." And
Sure.
I'm telling dudes to avoid a woman like that.
Well, she seems like she has her own set of issues. I wouldn't date a girl like that. But like, I mean, they just seem to come from like a trailer trash kind of neighborhood, honestly. But
Yeah.
there's reasons aside from just her pegging somebody.
Yeah, not definitely.
But
But
on that
I
topic,
think oh, go ahead.
funnily enough, I've known a few girls who were in not so great relationships where their boyfriends were kind of abusive and like possessive. There was some chick that I knew that I knew from school, and she ended up going to the gym. And occasionally, I just say like hi, and like I think a few times I helped her with lifting, like a couple times.
Mhm.
Apparently, every time that happened, her boyfriend would get like fucking insanely mad at her and like scream and yell and shit because he was so jealous. Like I've met a few girls who were in relationships like that, and then they admitted that like their boyfriends were into like getting dildos shoved up their asses and stuff and wanted to get pegged. It's kind of
Yeah.
weird, but
Yeah.
I
I'm not
I
with that. I'm pretty vanilla. Yeah, I mean,
yeah. Okay, well, I think this was a very good, productive discussion. Like again, I think the main issue that I usually have with your channel is I don't think you completely understand where women are coming from, and I think you should kind of like when you're talking about women's issues specifically, like sexual
mhm.
liberation, slut shaming, and shit. It might do you some good to actually get some women on your channel who've dealt with that sort of thing. Like, you know, you're building up a bit of a community and following. I'm sure there's going to be some women who end up seeing your shit. Just
Oh yeah,
like make
it's
a
it's
post
it's a
and
lot of women in the comment
yeah,
section.
like make a post and say like, hey, if there's any girls who want to come to my channel and talk about issues they've had with slut shaming and shit, I think it would help your channel a lot. So,
Oh
and I think it
yeah,
would
I
help
mean,
you a lot with your position on some of these things.
yeah. When it comes to YouTube shit, like I'm open to anything. I'm really new to this YouTube shit. I mean, I started like two years ago, and I got another channel where I like speak more openly. But for me, like with this channel, it's more directed towards guys and advice towards guys. But I mean, I'm open to bringing anybody on the channel. Like I mean, I've even had chicks wanting to come on and say their piece and whatnot. But I just haven't had the time and the opportunity to get it going for real. But I mean, I'm open to all perspectives. Like it's not like I'm just out here closed minded. Like I'll hear anybody out, whatnot. That's just the type of person that I am. Like off rip, it's just about respect for me. So
Sure, cool. Yeah. So I think I've said what I wanted to say. Do you have any like closing thoughts?
nah, I mean it was funny, or it was pretty lit the last night when
Yeah,
we
that was
the
pretty
other
funny.
night to go to that shit was funny. So it ain't no hard feelings or nothing like that. Glad to see you out here doing your thing. I'm out here doing my thing. So shit, I
Yeah, for
appreciate you
sure.
having me on the channel.
Yeah, no problem. So if you guys want to check out his channel, it's called Reclaim Your Throne. This is definitely a much more cordial and productive discussion than last night, so that's good.
Yeah.
But take care, dude. Thanks for coming on, and maybe we can have a debate like this or discussion again some other time
Oh
if you
yeah.
can think of other topics.
Okay. Definitely, bro.
All right, take care, dude.
All right, homie.
All right. And I will move myself up here. A lot of sun going through the window. Okay, so what did you guys think of that? Let me open Streamlabs in case anybody wants to ask anything through Streamlabs. Let me see. I'll put the link in the chat. Yeah, I think that was a pretty good discussion, and I think he kind of got my point. Again, the main issue that I had with his channel was when he talks about women's issues specifically, he seems to not really understand where they're coming from, and like sometimes he's kind of upholding like some of the societal problems, like, you know, the slut shaming, rather than acknowledging it and kind of trying to elevate the discussion further, like, you know, this shouldn't be happening. It's like, oh well, you know, you should expect that, right? But I think he understood my point, and that was is a good overall discussion. So if you guys have any questions, just ask. Probably gonna end up streaming a bit later too. And yeah, the stream is gonna stay up for those of you asking. The debate I had with him last night, I have to edit it, but that's gonna be put up later. You lost sight in both eyes. Doc says I should stop staring at the sun. That'd probably be good advice. Alex, stop deleting your streams, you big meanie. I haven't been deleting them. A few of them have gotten blocked and copyright claimed. I've only deleted one recently, and that's, again, for TOS issues.
He seems a bit more agreeable than his actual content. He still seems pretty biased against women also. You, ara, 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 you, ara.
Again, he might have ended up just changing his stance on a few issues. Hopefully I was able to convince him. Because, yeah, with his content, it seems like he had a bit of a different message than on here. But hopefully that's because I actually was able to convince him or make him realize the way he was putting across certain information wasn't the best. But it was a good discussion anyway. Thanks for the nation, Chunky Seagull. Appreciate it. And thanks for the UURRs.
Hey mate. Unrelated to the debate, but you might want to check this out and maybe make a video on it. It's got a lot of misinformation.
Protein.
Let me see. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I think later today, when I do another stream reacting to stuff, I'll react to that one. That looks pretty terrible. Yeah, and it's what I've learned. That guy is full of nonsense. Thanks for the nation, though, Astro Cabbage. Why don't you ever talk about your sister? Are you close? I have a half-sister. I've only met her, like, once, really. That's why I don't talk about her. Not close at all. Alright, well, hope you guys enjoyed this debate. Again, it's going to remain public because it's a debate. And I did have another debate with that dude the other 2 days ago. And I just have to edit that one, but that's going to go up too.
Try to land a debate with Kevin Samuels on this topic. That should be interesting.
That actually probably would be interesting. Kevin Samuels, I've seen more of his content. What I think he ends up doing a lot of the time is he just likes stirring shit. He's had a lot of contradictory claims in a lot of his videos. I think he deliberately tries to stir shit and come up with something to say to create some sort of conflict. So I don't know what his real position actually is. I've seen him debate some women, and it was very hard to actually get him to nail down like anything, like any solid stance. And I could see them getting frustrated because of that. So I'll see what I can do, and I'll see if I can set up a debate with him. That would be kind of interesting. Thanks for the donation, though, CLMF. Appreciate it. All right, so thanks for checking out the stream, guys. Hope you enjoyed the debate. We'll stay up for those of you who didn't, see the whole thing. Big thanks to everybody who donated on Streamlabs, and as always, Curious $22, last night your debate with him went from steroid to vegan to Christianity to COVID to abortion debate, and we learned he has a ex-vegan Christian pro-life. He was an ex-vegan Christian pro-life anti-vaxxer. You should have insulted his hair again, like last night before you ended the Zoom. That wasn't really necessary. The discussion was going pretty well, but yeah, I'll upload that debate too. Thanks for the donation, though, Curious. Appreciate it. So, as always, respect women, and keep making those vegan gains.